July 1945, pre-dawn darkness off Honshu. Commander Itsuki Mori stood on the deck of the I-402 as rain hammered steel like rifle fire. Orders were sealed, coded, and forbidden to be opened until mid-voyage. The impossible problem, a mission with no defined destination. Declassified Allied sonar logs later confirmed the I-400 class carried aircraft, fuel reserves of 60,000 gallons, and range exceeding 37,000 kilometers. Yet internal directives note the crew received no target coordinates, only time markers. Mori descended into the humid hull, the air dense with diesel fumes and quiet panic. Even veteran pilots whispered about the coded phrase etched into their briefing: "Target is not a place." No one dared ask what that meant. Imperial Navy memos show compartmentalization at unprecedented levels. Only 0.4% of officers were aware of the program's full scope, and even they lacked operational detail beyond launch protocols. Inside the chart room, Lieutenant Sato unfolded a blank operations map. The absence of plotted routes drained color from his face. "Sir, how do we navigate toward nothing?" he whispered, voice trembling with dread. Intelligence analysts reviewing captured logs noted coordinates were replaced with timing intervals. Estimates suggest the mission relied on synchronized movement, rather than geographical targeting. When the second I-400 joined formation, both crews exchanged uneasy glances. Not a single officer below captain rank had been briefed. Silence ruled the ocean, as though the mission itself demanded secrecy from the sea. Allied ocean patrols recorded unusual patterns. Two massive signatures traveling at inconsistent depths, shifting speed by increments of 3 knots, as if following unseen beacons instead of conventional headings. Mori gathered his command team and ordered full radio silence. But fear seeped through each bulkhead. Veterans who had survived Midway confessed they would rather face aircraft than an order no one could interpret. War diaries recovered decades later describe morale shifts of nearly 40% in units operating under sealed orders. Psychologists attributed the decline to directional void, a term describing missions defined only by absence. Hours into the mission, a low-frequency pulse trembled through the hull, subtle enough to feel, but not hear. Mori gripped a support beam as it passed. The crew stared at him, waiting for an explanation he didn't have. Postwar hydroacoustic studies found signatures matching this pulse at 1822 Hz. Analysts proposed it was artificial, but no Japanese transmitter of that era could generate a signal across such range. Sato reported equipment fogging, despite stable temperature. Compass needles shivered erratically, drifting 2 to 3 degrees before snapping back. The metallic taste of fear spread through the control room. Navigation logs from seized vessels note magnetic deviation spikes linked to I-400 movements. Yet Japanese engineering teams denied producing any device capable of generating localized distortion. Mori opened his sealed envelope at the designated time. Inside, only a single line: "Proceed until the signal repeats." No longitude, no latitude, just a rhythm they did not control. Historians later argued this directive implied reliance on an external locator, but no radio frequency was listed, and no known Axis ally possessed compatible systems in mid-1945. The pulse struck again, stronger, rattling tools along the bulkhead. A mechanic swore. It felt like the ocean itself was breathing. Mori ordered depth change, but the pulse followed them, unwavering. Allied intercept records confirm both submarines shifted depth in synchronized intervals. Each change corresponded to fluctuations in pressure bands, measured across a 40-kilometer radius. The second sub signaled distress, crew hearing faint clicks in patterns resembling code. Mori listened through the hydrophone, The rhythm resembled neither Morse nor biological sonar. A 1951 U.S. Navy report labeled these signals non-correlating acoustic bursts. Despite attempts to decode them, no mathematical structure matched any known communication system of the era. Maury ordered both subs deeper, chasing the signal or fleeing it. He could no longer tell. Every officer felt the growing sense that they weren't navigating towards something, but being drawn in. The deeper they went, the more the pressure creaked along the outer hull, groaning like something alive. Crewmen clutched railings as another pulse rippled through the steel, this time bending spoons in the galley. U.S. Navy metallurgists who inspected recovered fragments noted microfractures inconsistent with standard compression. Stress mapping showed irregular serrated patterns, suggesting vibration at frequencies above documented submarine resonance. Sato approached Maury with trembling hands, revealing a secret he had hidden for hours. He too had received a sealed message, but is read, "Observe the crew. Record behavioral deviation." His voice cracked with guilt. Interrogation records recovered in 1998 confirm at least 3 officers aboard the I-400 fleet had been instructed to monitor psychological drift. None were told why, and only one set of notes survived capture. The pulse returned in rapid succession, tightening their chests. A radio operator collapsed, whispering that the clicks were forming syllables. He insisted they weren't hearing patterns. They were being addressed. Linguistic analysts later attempted to classify the bursts. Some argued they resembled proto-phonetic grouping. Others dismissed the idea entirely, citing absence of harmonic structure required for language. The second I-400 surfaced briefly, its commander reporting water leaking through a seam that had been stable for months. His message ended abruptly with, "Signal rising beneath us." Depth sensors in the surviving logs recorded an unexplained pressure bloom, expanding upward at 5 meters per second. No geological event was detected in that region at the time. Maury ordered his sub to shadow the second vessel, but a sudden distortion swept across their instruments. Gyro spun without input. The oxygen gauge jittered wildly before freezing at impossible values. Engineers reviewing the recovered panel decades later noted the pattern resembled electromagnetic saturation. However, wartime Japan lacked generators capable of producing the necessary field strength. Inside the dim control room, Maury felt a thought that wasn't his own. A faint push, like a suggestion rising through cold water. It didn't speak words. It simply urged direction, and every compass needle swung to match it. The ocean around them grew unnaturally still, as if currents paused to listen. Maury gripped the periscope mount as the hull shivered under a heavy, dragging resonance. The crew murmured prayers, terrified the sea itself had turned sentient. Hydrophone archives from postwar analysis show an unexplained low-band swell expanding across a 40-mile radius. Analysts described it as a directed phenomenon, lacking any known geological cause. The second I-400 signaled again, its captain sounding shaken. He reported that every man aboard could sense the same heading, as if instinct had replaced navigation. "Target is not a place," he whispered. "It's a pull." Psychological evaluations conducted after their capture revealed synchronized directional intuition among survivors, matching within a variance of 2 degrees. No known naval protocol created such alignment. A sudden metallic crack tore through Maury's sub. A forward bulkhead buckled inward by several centimeters. Crew scrambled to brace it, screaming as another unseen force pressed against the steel like an enormous hand. Engineering experts later noted deformation inconsistent with pressure from outside. The bend suggested internal force, something resonating within the metal lattice itself. The pulse struck again, this time carrying a rising tonal shift that made their teeth ache. A mechanic vomited from vertigo. Maury felt the tone vibrating behind his eyes, shaping a command without language. Allied analysts argued whether this represented infrasound-induced panic, or a genuine directed signal. No consensus emerged, and several transcripts were sealed due to interpretive instability. Then came the twist. The second I-400 abruptly turned away, veering 10 degrees starboard against the shared pull. Maury demanded explanations, but the other captain whispered only, "We saw something below." Depth charts from that region show no trenches or ridges capable of producing visual distortion, yet the crew insisted a massive silhouette rose beneath them, wide as a carrier deck and perfectly silent. Panic swept Maury's vessel. The pull intensified, as if reacting to their fear. He realized too late the mission's truth. They weren't tasked with attacking a target. They were being delivered to one. The water darkened to an unnatural clarity, revealing a faint glow pushing upward from below. Every gauge froze. The sub's engines throbbed irregularly as if their timing had been seized by an external rhythm. Crewmen stared at the floor, sensing movement they could not see. Recovered field notes state that luminosity was detected despite 0 bioluminescent species in that zone. Some analysts argued the glow came from chemical discharge. Others insisted the effect resembled directed energy reflection. The second I-400 surfaced in panic, broadcasting a final fragmented message. Burn everything. No contact. No record. A moment later, its signal vanished. Whether it fled or was pulled under remains unresolved in Allied archives. Debrief interviews conducted after Maury's capture reveal every officer destroyed personal logs before surfacing. Only the coded fragment endured. Target is not a place. Analysts concluded it implied an entity, system, or force. When Maury surrendered days later, he refused to release details. He claimed the ocean had looked back at them. His pulse spiked whenever sonar equipment activated, as if expecting the signal to return. If archives like these should not sink forever beneath classified waters, hit like so YouTube keeps raising the forgotten operations. History tried to erase. Years after the war, oceanographic surveys found a pressure anomaly, shaped like a rising column exactly where the I-400s vanished from record. No wrecks were recovered, but the silence carried a faint tremor, as if the sea still remembered what answered.